Alright. I've posted several videos during the Legacy League about this build, when it was still a poison-based, double-dipping powerhouse. I thought with the 3.0 changes this build would not be as viable. I had the League starter. I believe I started with a Blade Vortex character, and in Act 10 I just got one shot before the Spectral Throw mobs were nerfed. I just felt so weak, so I'm like, I better go back to what I know. And lo and behold, I feel as strong as ever, and in some cases stronger with the current setup that I'm running. Notable changes. No longer have to use Cosprey's Will. You can use virtually any chest you want. High evasion chest is really nice, but there's a downside to that because it's not as easy to color the way you'd need for an appropriate setup. Since you want your tornado, this is Tornado Shot Deadeye, by the way. You want your Tornado Shot linked with added lightning, physical to lightning, elemental damage with attacks, and ranged attack totem. Currently I'm using added cold as well. It's a nice DPS boost, but ideally, and it's like virtually impossible to get 3 red, 2 blue, and 1 green. Ideally you would be using damage on full life support, and just as a demonstration, this is with no auras on, right? So I've got 13,000 DPS. That's with weapon elemental damage. You'd think, since I'm linked with cold and lightning, that damage on full life couldn't hold a candle to the elemental damage support, but as you see, they're virtually the same. So it's like having a second elemental damage with attack support. The bonus, of course, is since you're totems, it's quite easy to stay on full life and you don't need Veil Pact. You might notice that I've got a very low health pool. That's because I am geared for rarity and quantity. Movement speed. This was the most expensive item in the build, outside of 6 linking a chest. This cost me about 3 exalts, maybe week 2. You want to get +1 arrow skirmish. Those are pretty cheap too. You could probably get one for an exalt. You could do it cheaper yourself if you want to buy up as many skirmishes as it'll take. Biscos, obviously, if you're farming. Death's Opus, great, +3 arrows, or 2 arrows, so 3 total. So with all these arrows and projectiles, you don't need to link greater multiple projectiles or use Rain of Splinters, which you can. That's an option as well. Without further ado, I just want to make a demonstration. I'm going to be running this Profane Shadows Shape Primordial Pool map with a ton of mods. And yeah, let's get going. Furthermore, Blink Arrow with faster attacks, Herald of Ice, Grace. You can use Grace, you can use Hatred, you can use Wrath, you can use whatever you want. I'm just using Grace. I was recently using Purity of Elements because my defenses are lackluster at the moment, but as you see, a Bismuth will put me over the top and pretty much have 100% flask time up on that, so I'm being a little greedy. I'm going for Grace and Herald of Ice. A couple other things real quick before we start. This is an amazing bonus, amazing addition for this build. The strongest thing here is the capturing Lycius in the layer map, which allows you to avoid projectiles like while they're chained. So if I put down totems, monsters here shooting at the totems, suddenly I'm vulnerable, no matter how far I'm standing away. So that's a really strong ability for a sub ability, and everything else just works really well with the build. The movement speed, the damage reduction, avoid projectile damage, and more evasion if you've been hit. Similarly, I stack chance to evade attacks if you've taken a savage hit recently, which with such a low health pool, everything is a savage hit. But the biggest part is the 6% increased movement speed if you haven't been hit recently, which is much more likely. We look over here. This is my tree. Phase acrobatics. I'm stacking that because I'm using Hiri's Ire, and I just wanted to see how viable it was. It works out pretty well. Notable changes when I was using poison, I wasn't taking any elemental nodes, so this tree looks a little different. I'm grabbing elemental nodes here, and here. There's a crit and health cluster here. We grab frenzy charges, multiplier, elemental, critical chance and multiplier, life, etc. You see how it goes. The reason I take frenzy charges is what this build affords, since you're a dual totem without ancestral bond, is your main attack or your self attack is frenzy, which is very useful. Curse on hit with elemental weakness, pretty strong, and power charge on crit. So you're generating, I don't really want Pierce, I think I want GMP here. So you're generating power and frenzy charges as well as cursing on hit, and it still does some damage, not a whole lot. It used to be a lot better. Let's see. How much do I want to invest? Let's go Bloodlines. It's already got more magic monsters. That seems good. Alright. Just want to demonstrate how well this build farms. Triggered a prophecy too. Oh, stuff is dropping ID'd. I actually don't like that mod, because when a large cluster of items drop, it just ruins your visibility of the entire screen. So it's really easy to keep up your charges. You use a diamond flask that helps also, not only just in the DPS, but to keep up your power charges. You don't have to attack very often. And the great thing is this build doesn't worry about, like, virtually any map mod. The only thing it would worry about right now in the current iteration, I'm using 2 life flasks and no mana flask. If you run into a map that has no regen, you'll need a mana flask. But that's, you know, not a large adjustment. I'll try to stop picking stuff. Yeah, picking things up. Try to make it a little quicker for you. Fortunately, we have a breach. And so as you see, like, even in the thick of it, you're not really taking damage. It's really easy to avoid damage with this build, being as you're stacking all the evasion that you want. And so that allows you to focus on farming. Oops. There's that savage hit I was talking about. So, I recently moved Portal off cast when damage taken, and I'm accidentally casting it. That's normally where I would keep my Veil Grace prior to this. So you see, the loot is significant. And it's quite an easy build to put together. It feels really strong while you're leveling, feels really strong while you're building it, and it only gets stronger, you know? So, this is your most expensive build, but it's also one of your best items to go for, besides obviously the skirmish, which is absolutely core. Everything else is kind of interchangeable. You can even use other bows if you want, but I prefer to use this one because I don't like to have to use GMP or LMP. There I go again, casting portal. You see how often monsters hit me? Not very often. Quite a bit of lag there. Alright. Kind of a lazy clear. I'm not going for the full clear. I just want to show you how the boss DPS looks. You'd think it'd be pretty bad. It is not that bad. Nice. Ouch. Oh my god. I deserve that. Well, you will get one shot. I guess I can stop there. That's unfortunate, but you saw everything I wanted to show you.